Thanks for coming. My study's named Bridging the Gap.
Our identity is who we are as people. It differentiates us from those who don't identify as us. It gives us a sense of belonging, a sense of knowing what we are and where we came from. Our community, our people. Knowing our ancestral background is very detrimental not only to us, but to those around us. The years of white supremacy that has suffocated and demeaned the Black community. The same white supremacy that hates us, yet copies our every move, our language, our culture, and our background. That keeps us disconnected and emphasizes the importance of not knowing where we come from. But here we are telling you today that it very much is important to know where you come from and where your roots are planted, because it not only affects me and you as we are now, but it also can very much start impacting us from young ages, being detrimental to our identity as we grow into adulthood.
I am Benny. I'm a college student from Cal Lutheran. I just want to know your guys' names and your grades, and we can go from here to here.
My name is Luke Arthur. I'm in 5th grade.
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Luke.
My name is Andrea Arthur, and I'm in 6th grade.
Nice to meet you, Andrea.
My name is Samara, and I'm in 5th grade.
Nice to meet you, Samara.
My name's Camille, and I'm in 5th grade. I'm soon to be in 6th grade, y'all.
Amazing. Nice to meet you, Camille. Africa's super vast. As we look down here, like, it's one of the biggest continents, right, in the world. There's so many countries in Africa. It's beautiful, but really it's like, how can I tell them that their story is so much more than just slavery?
My name is Luke, and I want to learn about my ancestors and Black people. I also want to learn about why Black people's hair is.
I want to know how special Africans really are, more about the culture, how they came to be, how/when was February created as Black History Month, why people thought Black people should be slaves, why Black people's hair is kinky, and why Black people are unpopular to other races.
Wow. Who is William Tucker? All right, let's start over here because you guys answered a lot. So you guys can answer.
As I became a teacher, I always thought it was important for our students to know who they are, their stories, their family stories, and really spend time blending the families together for them to have lots of conversations. So kids are empowered, and they have confidence, and they have faith that they can be whatever if they know that they're loved and cared about, and really where they're from, and something about their history. A simple way is, as I spoke with Bemi, we spoke about 2 great books that she shared with her elementary students. She shared the 1619 Project, Born on the Water, Nicole Hannah-Jones' work and Renee Watson's work with Nicholas Smith. And I had a chance to meet him and touch him and shake his hand. He's the illustrator, genius, just a genius. And then also the other elementary story she shared was Our Story Starts in Africa. These are simple, honest, true, beautiful stories written by African Americans that start this conversation about the origin story. If we don't give our kids that background, that history, that story, that foundation, it will impact them the rest of their lives. It'll impact them in their middle school, their high school, and their collegiate educational pursuits. People have to know who they are, and they're from greatness. Black folks are from greatness. They're from greatness. We come from the cradle of civilization. And a lot of us don't know that. And I think it comes to a point, a sense of not knowing and lack of pride, where we don't stand up straight, and we don't demand, and we don't show up, and we don't expect and have expectations of ourselves and put that on other people to have of us because we don't know how great we really, really are.
My study is named Bridging the Gap, and this part of it is part 2, which is the focus group section with Cal Lutheran students.
I'm Alanae, some of you guys know me as Ali, but I'm Alanae. My major is sociology and sports communications.
My name is Stanley, and I'm a business marketing major.
I'm Angela Amalu, and my major is psych, and I'm minoring in music.
So I believe that there may be a correlation between the lack of understanding of ancestral identity, which is created due to slavery within the Black community, within the way in which individuals in the African community and the Black community treat one another. So the purpose of the study is to question whether or not knowing one's ancestral identity impacts their mental well-being, and if it directly correlates to many misunderstandings between the African community and the Black American community, and if Black Americans feel welcomed by the African community and vice versa, and if they feel like they can get connected to African culture. So that was a lot.
I think as human beings, we kind of naturally gravitate towards the people that look like us or have similar experiences. So I think just having that innate human sense of belonging is always something that is like a need for everyone, regardless of race or ethnicity. I think just finding that sense of belonging is important, and I think until you like get to a certain point in your life or like educate, like in the educational system, not knowing your ancestral background doesn't kind of have an effect on you until you see and experience the different ethnicities. Like I think coming to Kowloon, I wasn't exposed to Africans back home, so just knowing like how there's people who take pride in that African ancestry and not knowing my there's African American culture, but I feel like it's not as enriched in us, or like it's not ingrained in us like, oh, this is Black American culture. Like before I've just thought like, oh, this is what we do like as Black people, as a collective, because of like slavery. But I think just having that need for culture isn't like going to affect your mental health. And I think it didn't affect me until I got to college, because I didn't realize how there were others who took pride in their culture.
Understanding asking my parents and my grandparents about like their history and being like, tell me stories from when you were a child is so important to me, because it really helps me understand our generational curses for sure.
I also think it's also perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially me growing up like Nigerian, like I feel like my mom I was raised by pretty much my mom. She didn't really have perspective on what a black home looked like, or the things that Black people did. And along with like just it being a universal thing that like a lot of the things that Black people do are like bad, or like, so there's that stigma that goes along with it, that just kind of creates a divide until that person on their own goes on to like, that's how it is for a lot of people. You go off to college or you go on to start living your life, and you're actually meeting Black people and you're talking to them through the things that they went through, and then you're like, okay, like some of the stuff that you're telling me, like I understand it. It makes sense.
It's not personal coming from the African parent side of things. Even because I'm from Ghana, right? And even in Ghana, there's way too many stereotypes between the tribes that are there. When I was growing up, I always heard not to marry a certain type of tribe, or not to get involved with a certain type of tribe. And it's like you meet someone from that tribe and you're just like, we're the exact same. There's no difference between us. And so that being passed down from generation to generation, I feel like when you move to America, they kind of just take that same mindset, right? And they just run with it. They run with it.
Because I can never contribute to the conversation. I'm just sitting there like listening to everybody like, oh, I'm this, and I'm this, or like I'm this, so you know I was raised like this, and like I'm just sitting here like, oh yeah, and I have nothing to say.
No, like I'd rather just know my roots. But then it's like, oh, like how can I find it? Oh, I can't, because it was like burned on fire. So it's like, oh, like nobody knows, and like you can't even ask like, oh, your grandma, let me ask my grandma. You can't ask them. And so it's just like crazy to be like, I literally have no idea and I'll never know in my life.
When we came to the US, like my parents like always remind you of like us, of where we came from. Like you're not like other people.
Concerning being different, when you come here, people here, like white people or like people here, expect like so much from you. Like when you speak good English, you're like, oh, so you can actually speak English, because they expect like you to not understand or be able to communicate with them. So I feel like that's why parents try to make you like learn English over like learning like your own native language, because they feel you wouldn't have somebody here to communicate with in your native language. And then they try to make you they try to make you act like normal, so that you wouldn't be seen differently, and then they wouldn't stereotype you and be like, oh, she's acting like this because she's from Africa, or she's acting like this because yeah.
You know, if you've ever seen a chicken running around with a tail off, it's just kind of running, like it doesn't know what's going on. So I think they kind of assume the same thing, like you take the education away, you take the knowledge away, then that'll be fine. And all it really takes is for us to press and be like, why? You know, but even sometimes for us, we're just kind of like, like that sucks, but then we're not really doing anything about it kind of thing. So it's like, same, like I've learned more online or from asking my parents questions than really history books. And my parents are the ones that are shocked, like, how do you not know these things? And I'm just like, they never told us anything, like, you know what I mean? We learn about all these amazing other cultures in science and math and things. Like, how hard is it to just integrate Black excellence in a math class, in a history class, in a whatever class? You know, it doesn't have to be Black History Month to me to learn about all these amazing people, because it doesn't take all these other months for other people to be shined. It's like, why can't, it doesn't hurt anyone, it doesn't take away from a lesson, well maybe one, but just kind of integrate it, so, and that doesn't happen.
I think the most I've been around Black people is in college, definitely. And I remember like my first ever BSC meeting in high school, and I was like so overwhelmed because I just didn't know what was going on. And it was really amazing, and it made me appreciate like the culture more. So I guess I did feel like welcome and accepted in the Black community. It was just more so like having to take that stigma out of myself of, you know, African Americans, or like those little kids making fun of me and bullying me because of my heritage and my culture.
The reason why America and white people are on such a pedestal is because of the media as well. Like what we are shown back home, no one shows the bad stuff on television. If it's bad stuff, it's like with Black people and other cultures, and you'll find a sprinkle bit here and there. But it's like if you're seeing like what's going on, and they're always talking about how much money is coming in, all these new inventions, and none of it includes Black history, it's meant to separate you. It's meant to make them look a lot better than they really are, and meant to put everyone else down. And at least on the African side of things, if you're only seeing the positives of white people and the negatives of Black people, it's gonna screw with your mind a little bit.
But for some reason, and I've talked to my parents about this, but they just never really like told us too much about like our heritage, our history. And we've like been home, but even like our grandparents, they wouldn't really tell us like that much about our family history. And so that kind of led to like a situation where I was never really able to like identify with like the more like Black American side, but I didn't really have like enough information or like history or like background really to identify with the African side either.
The fact of like Black and white, and that Black is negative and white is positive, and then to divide African and Black is just to make sure that everybody assimilates to whiteness, because if you're here, whiteness is what's going to get you to survive. Like whiteness is how you survive. So it makes sense to be like, no, I don't want to have, like, I even have friends now that are like, oh, how's my American accent doing? And I'm like, you don't need an American accent. Don't try to have an American accent. Like, if people can understand you and you can understand them, like, and you're able to work, like, do your thing, but don't worry about an accent. Like, because they know that that's just how you survive. And so I think the main point that's really crazy is just think that like everybody's just assimilated that like the blacker you are, the worse off you are, because like legitimately that's how it can be. And like getting a job, being in school, like it doesn't matter like if you like what your true ethnicity is, but if you look dark, you have like the African like look of like just our natural ancestry, like you're done for, you're gone, because like you're not having whiteness.
Education has always been taken away from us. Our culture, our name, the blackness has always been seen as a negative. You know, so as we talk and find we're still searching for the common ground, but history is the teacher. It's already happened. You could try to take it out of the schools if you want to. It has happened. This is our life. We are great people. One of our greatnesses is that we're still here when they've been trying to annihilate us. Annihilate. And that's their fear.
But when you were talking about like, oh, like how you were ashamed of like Afrobeats and like your mom going to school playing music, and you're like wondering like, oh, when did this change of like appreciation come in? And I was just thinking about myself and like, oh, in light of like George Floyd and like all that, I started getting more into like, oh, African culture and like this stuff. And like even like when Black Panther came out, I was just like, oh my god, like I love being black, like this is it. Like I don't know, and just I've also gotten into like Afro beats and stuff, and I think our generation, like what like some of you were saying, like our generation is doing a lot better at being educated and knowing like the stigmas and like just an overall appreciation of both cultures. So I just love it. I love it here. Oh.
Самозванца в зеркале, а матери говорят, что там далее не разучат понимать язык людей. Я тогда оставлю себе мама вэ, догорает костер из перьев, и шаманы поют ночи. Звук струн по деревьям, летний ветер, ну-ка повтори. Не борись, ведь сам ты соперник, не борись, твой рай впереди. На вершине тех гор нам верно, где сомнения таяли. Не боись, помни, ты не один, и отпусти. Тебе не спасти их, нет. Топори пока гон горлу не дали. Сочиняй комбо.